Good afternoon. I'm Sharon Schmidt. I'm a CPS parent and teacher and a reporter for Substance News. I usually come here with questions about your testing program. The most helpful exchange I had came many years ago when I asked how to opt out my sons from unnecessary testing. Thanks to the answers I received, my sons have opted out of tests in their second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade classrooms. They have skipped NWEA MAP test, Reach Performance test, Scantron Performance Series test, CPS benchmark tests, DIBELS, M-Class Math, and even the ISAT, which is used for promotion in third, sixth, and eighth, but not in the other grades. While most people wish CPS would eliminate the excessive tests, until that happens, parents should know that they can protect their children by opting out. Like other CPS parents who opt out, you may simply tell the teacher and principal that your children will not be taking the test. For more information, parents can go to morethanatestscorechicago.org, an organization sponsored by the Chicago Teachers Union and several parents groups. That is morethanatestscorechicago.org. In addition to the testing issue, I want to add my voice to the outcry against school closings. I urge you, like others have urged you, to visit the schools you plan to close. If you cannot make it to these places where your decision will affect so many people, you should vote no next month against the closing. Think critically about the financial costs and the cost to the communities. The Washington Post recently reported that when she was DC Schools Chancellor, Michelle Reese said closing 23 schools would save a lot of money. It didn't happen.
Ms. Schmidt, excuse me, can you please conclude?
Certainly.
Thank you.
An audit years later found that the closing actually cost the city $40 million. The CTU lays out the huge financial costs to Chicago if you close school in its March 22 piece on ctunet.com. I will conclude, closing schools in DC didn't save money, it cost money. Likewise, closing schools in Chicago won't save money, and it will certainly bring many other costs to the communities affected.
Thank you, Ms. Schmidt. Our next speaker, please. Speaker number 59, Natalie Wahlberg. Ms. Wahlberg.
I am a representative of Occupy CPS. We believe that you, the Board of Education, are an illegitimate institution and must be dissolved. You mandate education policy in the city of Chicago, but you do not do so on the people's behalf. Dr. Hines, you say to hold you accountable, but how? You were appointed by Ram, not the people. You are not elected by the people whose children learn at our schools. You are not elected by the people whose livelihoods are tied to our schools. You are not elected by the people whose communities are anchored by our schools. You know nothing of our schools. You know nothing of our communities and the challenges they face. A majority of you lack any credentials to make decisions about educations. You are education authorities, but not education experts, nor educators. When legitimate educators and experts present you with irrefutable facts that closing schools and uprooting children's lives does no good and only harms children at the closing and receiving of schools, as you have done so many times before, you ignore them. Education policy in the city must be written by those who advocate for education, not by those who manage it. We are done being managed.
Ms. Wahlberg, excuse me, can you please conclude?
Education policy in the city is not a democracy, it is a corporation. You represent the interests of capital, finance, and cold-hearted bottom-line calculations. You are business people, not educators. You have
Thank you, Ms. Wahlberg.
You have no legitimacy.
Our next speaker, please.
You must be dissolved.
Thank you, Ms.
We
Wahlberg.
are coming for you.
Next speaker, Mr. President, this is the last speaker. Fenton Patterson.
Hello, good morning. My name is Fenton Patterson. I'm here because of the closings of some of the Chicago public schools. My problem is this. I thought that the reason for this administration and the board was to protect our children at all costs, without any compromise. And one of the things I'm not finding is this administration and the board is not doing. Things I think that they can do, for example, I know that the city just negotiated a contract with the union. Both of the city and the union has what we call a rainy day fund. If you're so concerned because the school system doesn't have enough fund, why don't they combine some of their rainy day funds together and go and buy back that contract in which the city entered into with the meters? We have about $12 billion in addition to protect our students. And at the same time, there's a provision in the union contract, 44 point something, that says that if the Chicago board finds itself with difficulties financing or any other reasons that affects the school system, that they would step in and take it over and cover it. So how can there be a shortfall? In addition, I think that the school system should not be able to close any of the schools. I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson.
That concludes public participation, President Vitale.
Okay. I'd ask my fellow board members if they have any reactions to any of the public participation. Let me start with Marquise. Go ahead.
I actually have a lot. I'll start off by saying I attend High Park Academy. It's on 62nd and Stony Island. Speaker 48 said that they're not doing anything with the school that's on probation. High Park is on 3 types of probation. We are now a wall-to-wall IB school. I've been there for 3 years. I have seen major changes this year when we found out that we were IB, wall-to-wall IB school, and I'm loving the changes. We're on 3 types of probation, not just 1 or 2, like some of the schools like some of the people that were coming up here saying about the other schools. We're on 3 of them. They call it BAG, behavior, attendance, and grades. I would just like to say that as far as distance, where everyone was talking about, I live in the Auburn Gresham area. I know how far it is. I have to catch 2 buses to get to school. It's about 40 to 50 blocks east and approximately 15 blocks north. And I have to catch those same buses back home. I know the area. I know how it is. It is a far distance, but if that's what we need to do to get our education, then that's what we need to do. So, which brings me to my question, are the parents actually sitting down talking to the students? They're coming up here speaking for the students or for their children, but they're not actually getting what the students actually feel. He wants to go, but his parents don't. So how is he supposed to deal with that? So, speaker number 38, she really impressed me. She said that she wanted to just sit down and understand each other, have a meeting about, and it was about the children. It is about the children. All the parents are coming up here voicing their opinions, but it's about the children, as she said plenty of times. It's about the children. The fact was 1 in 5 students actually get a good education, and they blaming the Board of Education for it. But it's not our fault. I sit in these schools. I see what these students do. I know it's not the Board of Education's fault, it's not the teacher's fault. It's the students. They don't want to learn. They try to teach them. They walk out. They want to cuss out the teacher. I see it. I've sit in these classes, and I sit in these same classes. I know it. It's not our fault. It's not their fault. They're trying to get them a better education. But yeah, it is about the children and how they feel. So the parents actually go home and see how their children feeling about the school closing. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Marquise. I know why we chose you as our student board member. Thank you. Any other reactions to public participation? Okay, Marquise, you keep going. It's all right.
Sorry. And I am here for the children, so if they have any suggestions or anything, that's what I'm here for. I'm not here just to sit in the meetings and look at everybody.
Thanks, Marquis, and I hope they reach out to you. And if they want to call the board, we'll help them get to Marquis, okay? Any questions about any of the public agenda items that board members want to ask of the management that are on the agenda? Seeing none, Dr. Hines, do you have a motion?
I move for the passage of motion number 13-0403-M01 and the commencement of a closed session to consider the subject specified in the motion.
I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll proceed with a roll call. Dr. Hines?
Yes.
Vice President Reese?
Yes.
Board Member Zapp?
Yes.
Dr. Escoitia?
Yes.
President Vitale?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
We'll now move into closed session. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Meeting of the Board of Education is reconvened. Madam Secretary, please proceed with the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I will start with items from closed session, and I will begin with settlements. These items do require a vote, and they are: first report, workers' compensation, payment for lump sum settlement for Charlene Cruz, case number 08WC49172. The second report is the workers' compensation, payment for lump sum settlement for Marie E. Mims, case number 10WC31831. The third report is the workers' compensation, payment for lump sum settlement for Evelyn Rivera, case number 09WC26793. The fourth report, approved settlement recommendation in Beverly Kelly, case number 10-7875. Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I'll proceed with a roll call. Dr. Hines?
Yes.
Vice President Reese?
Yes.
Board Member Zapp?
Yes.
Dr. Escoitia?
Yes.
President Vitale?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays. I will continue with other matters, and these items do require a vote, and they are: first report, appoint Senior Assistant General Counsel, Department of Law, Willie F. Lewis, Jr. Second report, appoint Assistant General Counsel, Department of Law, Sanat Raghunathan. Third report, authorize the retention of the pre-qualified pool of appraisers to act as expert witnesses in connection with the property tax appeal cases. And Mr. President, for the record, I would like to note an abstention for Vice President Reese on that matter. And these items do require a vote, Mr. President.
Madam Secretary, if there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote with the noted abstention.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I will continue with a personnel item and proceed with warning resolutions, and they are Principal Contracts D. On the warning resolutions, Derek Jordan, Contract Principal, Adam Clayton Powell, Padilla Community Academy Elementary School, Nancy Powlett, Principal, Orozco Fine Arts and Sciences Elementary School, Percy Crawford, Tenured Teacher, Burnside Elementary Scholastic Academy, Julia Hawk, Tenured Teacher, Mayo Elementary School. Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Madam Secretary, if there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I will continue with other matters, and these items do require a vote, and they are: first report, adopt finding that former pupil was a non-resident of the City of Chicago indebted to the Chicago Public Schools for non-resident tuition. The second report, adopt finding that pupils are non-residents of the City of Chicago indebted to the Chicago Public Schools for non-resident tuition. And Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Madam Secretary, if there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President, and now I will continue with items from the board, and these items do require a vote, and they are: first report, resolution approving the Chief Executive Officer's recommendation to dismiss educational support personnel. The second report is the resolution approving the Chief Executive Officer's recommendation to dismiss probationary appointed teachers. And Mr. President, for the record, I would like to note that on March 14, 2013, the board members and the office of the board received the CEO's recommendation to dismiss probationary appointed teachers pursuant to Board Rule 4-7B2B and 105 ILCS 5/34-84. Her recommendation included the names of the teachers affected and the reasons. She also noted that the teachers affected will be notified of their dismissal after adoption of the resolution. Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Madam Secretary, if there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call
Thank
vote.
you, Mr. President, and I believe that Vice President Reese has a motion, please.
Yes. I move that the board adopt the minutes of the closed session meeting of February 27th, 2013, pursuant to Section 2.06 of the Open Meetings Act. Board members reviewed these minutes and determined that the need for confidentiality continues to exist. Therefore, the minutes of the closed session meeting held on February 27, 2013 shall be maintained as confidential and not available for public inspection at this time.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Hines?
Yes.
Vice President Reese?
Yes.
Board Member Zapp?
Yes.
Dr. Escoitia?
Yes.
President Vitale?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, and I believe Board Member Zapp has a motion, please.
I do. I move that the record of proceedings of the regular board meeting of February 27, 2013, prepared by the board secretary, be approved, and such record of proceedings be posted on the district's website in accordance with Section 2.06B of the Open Meetings Act.
May I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Dr. Hines?
Yes.
Vice President Reese?
Yes.
Board Member Zapp?
Yes.
Dr. Escoitia?
Yes.
President Vitale?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays. I will now proceed, Mr. President, with the items that are on the public agenda, and I will only read the board report numbers since the titles and board reports appeared on the public agenda. I will begin with resolutions. These items do require a vote, and they are RS 1, 2, 3. Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Madam Secretary, if there are no objections, please, from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will now continue with a communication, and this item does not require a vote. This is to advise that the regular meeting of the Board of Education scheduled for Wednesday, April 24, 2013, will be held at the Central Administration Building, 125 South Clark Street, Board Chamber, 5th floor. The board meeting will begin at 10:30 a.m. Public participation guidelines are available on www.cpsboe.org or by calling our office. For the April 24, 2013 board meeting, advanced registration will be available beginning Monday, April 15th at 8 a.m. and closed Friday, April 19th at 5 p.m. or when all 60 slots are filled. You can advance register during the registration period by the following methods: online, by phone, or in person. The public participation segment of the meeting will begin as indicated in the meeting agenda and proceed for no more than the 60 registered speakers for the 2 hours. I will now continue with additional items that were on the public agenda that do require a vote, and they are EX1, PR1, PR2, 3, 4, PR5. I would like to note an abstention for Vice President Reese on PR5. Moving on to PR6, 7, 8, and 9. On PR10, I would like to note for the record an abstention for President Vitale. Moving on to PR11, and Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Madam Secretary, if there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote with the noted abstentions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will continue with items that do not require a vote, and they are MS1, ED1, EX2, EX3, and AR1. Mr. President, these items just need to be accepted by the board.
Please mark received and file.
Thank you, Mr. President, and there are no further items on the public agenda.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.